Next up, we have Santa Cruz City Council District 1 candidate, Dave Tenassi and Jazz Mia. And we're going to hear opening statements in 2 minutes for each of you. I'll invite, we'll start with Jazz, and then we'll kind of go back and forth. So you each get to speak first.
Can I sit on the corners?
Please do. Please, absolutely. I encourage. All right, so you've got, and you know where the timer is?
Yes.
Go for it.
Hi, my name is Jazz. For several years. And I was adopted at 6 months of age from Mother Teresa's orphanage in Dhaka, Bangladesh. I'm a transnational and transracial adoptee. My adopted family is 3/4 Black and 1/4 Bangladeshi. I'm also autistic, openly so, as a therapist in the community and running, and I'm agender. So I know what it's like to feel othered. And I've had significant mental health challenges in my life that I've struggled to overcome. I was radicalized by the public execution of George Floyd in 2020 and co-founded a group called SC4B, Santa Cruz People Over Policing, a BIPOC group working on abolition. That was back in 2021. I'm an active member of Santa Cruz Cares, which has worked hard to support repealing the oversized vehicle ordinance and standing up for the rights of the unhoused. And I'm also a long-term member of NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness. I was part of their speaker for their Ending the Silence program. I went to Stanford University for my undergraduate degree and have learned firsthand that the meritocracy is a lie. I could not get a job in my field, which is public health, ever. So I couldn't go to school for public health because you have to have 2 years experience. So I had different types of jobs through contracting agencies and things. I finally decided to do a whole career change, become a licensed marriage and family therapist. I think that's led to a lot of self-awareness and compassion in me and increased my desire for equity and justice. My motivation to run is to represent underrepresented voices, the othered, as well as have a vision of abolition. I really want to end racial oppression and economic exploitation and fight for the liberation of all people. In the abolition definition, it's that we leave nobody out. Everybody's in. We build up systems as we tear down old carceral and punitive ones. And it's called abolition because we want to keep abolishing modern slavery, which is in the form of policing, prisons, surveillance, and dependence on the wage.
I'm going to stand back a bit. I'm a little bit loud. Hi, Dave Tenassi. It's a difficult last name, just Tan-Ass-letter E. Tan-Ass-E. There you go. I am here speaking about the fact that, ironically, I think skateboarding was my gateway drug into political activism. And the reason that I say that is that my path to candidacy, I'd say, began in my 20s. I had grassroots community organizing to foster and focus the energy of young skateboarders. I helped them find their strength, put their best foot forward, and realize the power of collective movement. To this day, the community I helped build is strong and self-organizing, and the edifices we fought for still stand. Before 2007, I was pretty much on a professional endeavor career. My undergraduate degree is in zoology. I'm a biological scientist from UC Santa Barbara. I ended up going to SF State for a master's in genetics, but it kind of fell flat. Essentially, my time in community building paired with the economic collapse and the mounting climate crisis inspired my shift to municipal work first as a biologist and then now with the Santa Cruz Water Department. I could engage with systems and people that make a very real difference to regular working families every day. Joining and fighting for the rights of labor has proven to me again and again that the paradigms of justice and liberation must emerge from the fundamental respect for working families. Our monumental strike, which many of you may have heard about, is the first ever in city history, inspired my next steps down the path to public office. It is no small feat helping people to see their worth and stand for it. And that is exactly what we did and what an equitable and thriving future begins with imagining what is possible, and there's no limit to what we can achieve when we decide to move forward together. Thank you.
Thank you both for that opening. I am going to ask the first question, and you've received these questions in advance. And we'll ask Dave to come on back up here and answer the following question. You've got 2 minutes on this one. What measures can the city council take to ensure development of low, very low, and extremely low income housing?
Thank you, Sandy. I want to take a moment too to recognize both Jazz and I are running for District 1 City Council, City of Santa Cruz. So the question, what measures can the City Council take to ensure development of low, very low, and extremely low housing? I just want to pause for a minute and start. We're kind of dwindling ourselves down here. Let's start at the bottom. No cost housing. So I just want to recognize, and we're going to get to it later, and I know that there's going to be some excellent things brought up in this process about it, but the inquiry into no income housing, I want to recognize that we got to take special care of those working to find their footing to be safe and stable enough to do so. So what no cost housing looks like, it depends on one's needs. Like I said, we're going to get down there, but moving forward, when it comes to low income housing, the conversation that we just had from that presentation is kind of bringing to light a lot of the issues that we see. So currently, we need to close the loopholes that we have for developers. So I work in the water department. My job is to review plans for the hydraulic model for infrastructure development in the city of Santa Cruz Water Department. So when we're talking about development, it's literally right up my professional, uniquely skilled alley. So there's a number of loopholes that we see currently. There's in lieu transfers, there's inclusionary requirements that get dwindled down through state level input, we can say. There's base density issues. There's a number of elements there that need to be closed to continue to provide the level of housing that we're trying to meet for low, ultra low individuals within our community. And on that note, we only have an inclusionary requirement. We do not define it any further from there. So what we're seeing is we're parsing down that low income isn't low enough. Apparently, a lot of us are ultra low income. These are working people. This is everyday folks that you see in your day-to-day life. So there's those issues. There's a real level of public engagement, and that's what the presentation that we just saw. We want people being vocal and active in the community, and I want to foster work with existing 100% affordable design projects like For the Future Housing. Thank you.
Oh, it's okay. I got it. Where this? I don't know. Okay. Oh, there we go. It works. All right. I just wanted to say it's hard for me to answer this question because as an abolitionist, my thinking goes beyond our current systems. Abolition believes housing is a human right, and so I would eventually like to see that. In the meantime, to increase inclusionary zoning, I would want to get rid of, oh, it's a little too low now. Get rid of in lieu fees. I'd want to build more affordable units, and I've been studying in some of the upcoming developments, and Riverfront Front Street has less than 12% affordable units. That one's currently being constructed. 130 Center Street is slated to only have 13% affordable units. I hear the problem all the time is the cost. Developers won't do this like we talked about, what doesn't pencil out. Well, I would empower the city to look at various sources of funding and get creative. I, as an abolitionist, would reallocate some of the police budget because I do believe housing is a basic need. And I think that like having people have secure housing will decrease harm, which then renders police less and less necessary. And that would achieve the goal of abolition. I support the government stepping in to stabilize rents with rent control and just cause evictions. And I'd like to even suggest that rents be indexed to the area median income so that people are not rent burdened. Again, I would reallocate some of the percentage of the police budget, just things like social housing and hopefully public housing, because there are issues with Section 8. You know, it's great for the people who have Section 8 and can pay 30%, max of their income, but it doesn't scale. Housing Authority makes up the rest to market rate. So then that's why we had a 10-year wait list, and then they closed it. And so Section 8 is not a great answer. So I would like us to keep thinking. And essentially, though, housing is a human right, and we should just make it accessible and affordable to all.
All right, on to our next, I'm going to just do this. Our next question, and Dave will be all right. The next question is about infrastructure. As the city plans for Westcliff Drive and the wharf, both of those, what priorities should be considered? I'm going to ask Jazz to come on up and answer that first.
I think in regards to Westcliff and the wharf, we need to listen to coastal scientists. The Coastal Commission has discouraged armoring, which is the dumping of boulders and erecting of seawalls, because that has had unintended consequences. They've encouraged nature-based solutions like funneling sand toward, not away from the beaches. And I really like the adaptive pathways, tack, because that's a range of options for when and how the city can respond. So I think we need to stay adaptive. I've heard a lot about managed retreat, which is a long-term need. I like the quote from David Revel, the coastal scientist and consultant, who said, "Rebuilding in the same place, doing the same thing is not going to get us a better place down the road." I really support exploring these options for managed retreat. One of them is to reduce Westcliff to 1 lane. Another is to replace the road with bicycle and walking trail. And I think there should be civic engagement for people to get involved in what they want to see. I know the opposition is Save Westcliff. They're very wary of the managed retreat plan. And the argument is it reduces coastal access, by barring vehicles from it. I find this interesting because some of these same people did not support the appeal of the oversized vehicle ordinance, which truly did reduce coastal access for people. And it was out of discrimination because, a lot of the unhoused and RVs were parking there. So if we do need to reduce coastal access, it will be out of environmental necessity. And I think the decision making needs to be representative of the people. It needs to include scientists, it needs to include key stakeholders, and it needs to be a diverse group. Farallon Strategies, the consultant on this project, had a focus group of 11 people, with whom even Mayor Keeley said was a glaring omission, having no Latina members. So I think we need increased participation, hear the voices of the people, and we need to pay attention to what climate change and the environment is telling us.
Improvise. Jazz improv. Let's do it. Here we go. Step 1. So we got the wharf and Westcliff. I think Jazz nailed some absolutely incredible points there, and I can only piggyback on and add to it. I think really the essence at hand here is public engagement again. With the wharf, it's a tricky one. It is the crown jewel. As was mentioned earlier, we are a tourist community. There's a number of business relationships that we have on the wharf as the city. And it is something that both attracts people, it has a cost to maintain, and there is a big picture there that the wharf historically was one of the largest polluters of that area. So you can go and look at water quality sampling now, and what we see is that the work that we've done on the wharf in the process of redeveloping it has had a significant impact on general water quality and health and hazards in that area. Worth recognizing. Feel free to swim in the San Lorenzo, by the way. Just telling you, I do. That being said, there's economics, there's the environment, personal enjoyment. There's small elements about the wharf master plan, but again, as a biologist, I'm going to fall back to the fact that if you can meet the environmental requirements, please continue moving forward and do not let small parts of the process hold up the greater good of a better, improved project in the long run for the people. So for Westcliff, it's, in my mind, there's something of a battle of money versus people. I think if you ask the community, it seems like in every way, shape, and form, the idea of creating space for all of the folks of our community to occupy that beautiful beachfront area is what we're talking about. So we're talking about pedestrian access, we're talking about bicycles, we're talking about rumble strips, we're talking about speed bumps, we're talking about speed limits. We're kind of getting towards, we don't really want and need cars on Westcliff unless you're driving by as a tourist, take a picture, and then go downtown, presumably. So the voices that spoke out, unfortunately, in my mind, do not represent everyone's interest for the beauty and splendor that's offered by our greatest asset known as the ocean.
That too. So question 3, Dave, come on back up. This is a question that I think you will have a lot to say about. What accountability, if any, does an elected official have to a unionized workforce? How will this be demonstrated?
Yeah, this one touches pretty close to home. I can't even explain that my brain just spun a wonderful circle where I'm sitting here looking at the two faces that I looked at in my strike, and I wanted to scream thank you. These are individuals who felt a responsibility to their unionized workforce, not because we were a professional responsibility, but because we were humans, and we were granted the dignity and respect by the two individuals in this room who sat on council to recognize that our plight was more than just finances. Our issues were beyond just being heard. So with respect to being a council member responsible to a unionized workforce, absolutely, but not because they have any sort of power in their voice. It's because their voice is there to get you at a council level who historically has been disassociated from working families. All of a sudden, you need to understand that here they are, their voice is bringing them to a state of finally, maybe, hopefully being heard. So I'll look at my notes now. Oh, look at that. I said everything. Yeah, the workers are the greatest asset the city has. Clearly not a liability, as it's been demonstrated and treated historically. It's demonstrated at the level of city council through conversations while workers are building up to their contract negotiations and outside of them. The power to aid workers from the position of council and having conversations around their needs and being receptive to the fact that they are the largest percentage of our workforce and also a subsequent liability historically, when in reality, we know we are the greatest asset. So that budget, the way you're responsible is you push to balance that budget with the backs of the workers, not shouldering the burden of fun projects or whatever it may be. We start with the workers and we move from there. Thank you.
I think as a city council member, you get voted in as a representative for the people. And so I fully support a unionized workforce. I do want to note, I also support and stand for disabled people who cannot work. A lot of times we talk about workers, we forget about the disabled. I consider myself disabled with my autism, but so things I would do to support unionized workers, I would walk picket lines with them, never cross them. I would support unions at the bargaining table, increasing their rights, their power, their wages, and their benefits. I would support unions in getting a contract, because it doesn't just stop at voting to unionize. We know that they need a contract. And I would want to incentivize unionization in all sectors, not just the public sector. I would be willing to help mediate between employers and workers. And in this spirit, I'm taking the community mediation training from Conflict Resolution Center of Santa Cruz County. I also think we should look for and screen out anti-union efforts during the request for proposal stage. So we should, investigate and see if certain places have anti-union practices and then not hire them. Other measures I would support are increasing the minimum wage to at least $20. I would support forming of co-ops, like trying to incentivize businesses to become worker-owned co-ops and have a right of first refusal. So if a business wants to retire or sell, that they offer it to the workers first. I also support project labor agreements, and I want to invest in a fully staffed public sector workforce. I would proactively seek feedback from unionized and non-unionized workers through office hours, town halls, and asking for their feedback. So I wouldn't wait for there to be a problem. I would be proactive about it.
We can make do. We're a nimble, flexible group of folks. Anyway, I'm running out of steam today. I'm running out of steam. So thank you for your responses and for keeping to time. Want to ask the next question here, and again, 2 minutes. What policies would you favor to support residents who are unhoused, including those living in tents or vehicles? And we'll have Jazz come on up.
Very passionate about this question. I would work immediately to repeal the Camping Services and Standards Ordinance, CSSO, and the OVO, Oversized Vehicle Ordinance. I think they're discriminatory against the unhoused. I would work to bring services to all people, so we could bring things like extra dumpsters, safe disposal sites, things like that. I would also want to end vehicle abatement, and that means the officer, the hotline, just everything about it. And I think we could, so the real groundbreaking thing is we can actually solve this unhoused crisis in one day. And so stay with me here. If we bought RVs for every unhoused person, we could literally solve homelessness in Santa Cruz in a day. Because the money we spend on caseworkers with no place to refer people, the money we spend on shelters that temporarily house people, return them to the streets, often having destroyed their tents and their belongings, and the money we have putting into permanent supportive housing, it's just not scalable. Yes, I believe in housing is a human right for all. And I think where we start where we are, we bring the bottom of society up. If we gave everyone an RV, they would have something. And the courts have deemed transient release a viable option. So they have recognized RVs as a form of housing. I think it personally is heartbreaking we haven't already done this. I mean, we're wasting money. We are helping very few people. Robert Ratner, the director for housing for health at the county level, has said for every person we house, 2 to 3 fall into houselessness. This is just like the whole, bathtub sink, it's just keeps going and becoming more and more of a problem. So buying RVs is actually the compassionate solution, and it can be done immediately. And we can redirect funds that are being used for these solutions that just don't work.
Hop to it. I'm getting up here. We'll do this. No, it's okay. I'm pretty loud. My mom tells me to be quiet. It's often. So let's see. We're talking about, clearly Jazz covered some very excellent points there. I would say that what I can beat on that drum from a slightly different angle is that one, the prolonged cat and mouse criminalization of the unhoused absolutely needs to stop, plain and simple. With that being said, another element of it is that in 2020 and 2021, we had the streets department in the courtyard who do signs and marking, and they pave asphalt and pour curb and gutter. 3 days a week, a crew of 3 got in a backhoe and a skid steer and cleared the encampments along the river, cleared the encampments along Sycamore Grove, cleared the encampments along Coconut. We're talking about physical displacement of people. They were suffering. It's harassment. There's psychological trauma. And here's individuals working for the city to pave the road. And they're working on the banks of the river to clear the unhoused in states of psychological distress that they are not trained for, that they are not adequately prepared for. So that prompted a whole ball that moved towards what we have as the Homeless Response Division. For those of you that aren't familiar, the individuals in that group do absolutely incredible work. We're talking direct action. Their favorite tools are granola bars and bottles of water and a telephone so that people can call their family and friends. Wow, I'm really bad at time. So I want to expand that. Currently, it has short-term funding. It would be nice to have that in permanence and to expand upon it. They show very good effect in the camps that the city has supported thus far. And I think it would be very productive to expand that wall, stopping the OVO, stopping the camping ban, stop the cat and mouse sweeps, stop pretending harm reduction is bad, support Food Not Bombs, support the Homeless Union, and efforts being presented at meetings. Their voice must be at the table.
Final question. This is a 1-minute question. And so I'll ask it here. Who are you seeking campaign contributions from? And who would you refuse contributions from? Dave, come on up.
So I'll pass the alms basket around. Y'all are welcome to contribute. I am seeking contributions from local individuals and agencies that support our progressive working families' values. I will not accept contributions from developers, real estate, and cops, nor special interest agencies, nor special interest agencies who want more power, more than, oh my gosh, I got plenty of time. So 20 seconds, I'm gonna collect myself. Nor special interest agencies who want power more than they want the people to have the power. Thank you.
Abolition is for the people, and so I am seeking contributions mostly from the public, supporters of an abolitionist vision. Organizations I'm hoping to get endorsed by, and so hopefully have some support, would be Santa Cruz for Verde, SCIU Local 521. I've submitted their questionnaire, have an interview Monday. Surge, which is showing up for racial justice, Santa Cruz County. I've been in talks with them and working on abolitionist projects together. And Planned Parenthood Marmonte, and I submitted their form. I would refuse any corporate PAC money. I would refuse any money from the Santa Cruz Police Officers Association or anything to do with police. Obviously, I'm abolitionist. I'd refuse money from Santa Cruz Together, and I would refuse money from any real estate interests.
Thank you. We do have a couple of questions from the audience. I want to just say we're short on time, so a minute max on these. I will start with, so I'll gonna work on this. Okay. I'll start with the one that totally is legible to me. Do you agree in all ways? Do you agree or disagree with new laws on enhancing conservatorship authority? For example, a homeless person that will not accept housing except by force. We're gonna, Jazz, go for it. If you're ready, go for it.
I oppose any carceral solutions. So forced healthcare is still forced care. And the way you actually force people into care would be with threats of violence like policing. And so I don't support that. Also, as a therapist, I'm a mental health provider, and people do not heal until they are ready to do the work. You can't just force people into treatment and expect that to work. Like even 5150s, which is when you get involuntarily held for 72 hours, they have proven that, and we have to do that. I'm a mandated reporter in my job, but we have seen that people have a higher likelihood of committing suicide when they get out of their 5150. So I don't think this is a good idea to increase conservatorship, or I've opposed SB43, which is increasing the definition of gravely disabled. I'm against care courts. I think we need another solution. We need community care, and we need people to want to get treatment and to feel cared for.
Keep it simple here. When the question comes up of providing care and someone is denying it, my first thought is, well, what are you offering? Is it really any good? Is it actually addressing the need? Does it meet the person where they are? Does it provide them with options to continue a life that they see as beneficial? So plain and simple, no. We haven't done a great job taking care of people thus far. Why would conservatorship improve that in any way, shape, or means? Clearly, the funding should be in other elements, wraparound care, addressing kind of the bigger picture and solving the puzzle from the base as opposed to top-down conservatorship forcedness.
Right. So there's another question that is connected to that last question. So I want to ask this one of you as a yes or no question, if I could. Should all homeless residents be required to dwell in 24/7 monitored ingress and egress containments? It is now time for closing statements. We started with Jazz, so we'll call Dave back up for your closing statement. 1 minute.
Yep. My candidacy is built on a foundational belief that when we extend care to our most marginalized community members, we foster solutions to problems often understood as intractable. Those who have been wronged, forgotten, and made to feel small, workers, laborers, the unhoused, are the very people with the key to the map. Their wisdom is so often missing in conversations about long-term success and visions for thriving futures. The work before us rides on two parallel tracks, one bolstering the voices of the silenced and the other developing institutional capacities to listen and engage in good faith. I look forward to serving as a catalyst for conversation, collaboration, and direct action. Thank you.
I just want to say that there are parts of abolition that is achievable now, and I don't think people understand that. I would work to redistribute the police budget, as I've said, to social services like food distribution, counseling, and housing solutions. I also think if we can implement things like neighborhood activation networks or pods, in which the city could help subsidize trainings for de-escalation, mediation, things like CPR, then using local groups like the Conflict Resolution Center, then we can do the process of building up, which is what we do as we tear down the policing and carceral systems. I hope that you vote to endorse me because I'm trying to create a world in which all of our needs are met, and I do believe I can make some real changes now. I feel like this aligns with the values of Santa Cruz for Bernie and achieves the objectives of socialism. And I'm going to end with this Miriam Kaba quote that inspired my whole run. Abolition envisions a world where we address harm without relying on the violent systems that increase it. A world where we have everything we need: food, shelter, education, health, art, beauty, clean water, and more things that are foundational to our personal and community safety. To me, this is the perfect definition of socialism, and I invite you all to join me on this venture.
Thank you to our Santa Cruz City Council District 1 candidates. Up next, we have, hold on one moment, please. My teleprompter is acting up. Our next race that we're going to be hearing from candidates will be Santa Cruz County Supervisors District 2. We are moving across the county to hear from, I think Kim is here, yes. So we're going to hear from Kristen Brown, who is running for that seat, also Kim DeSerpa. And I also want to just acknowledge that Mark Hucklebridge is here. He is also filed for this seat. He was not able to get his information for this forum, but I wanted to acknowledge that he is here, and you can introduce yourselves to him after we finish up with our program. So I'm gonna ask Kristen and Kim to come on up a little bit closer. We will start with opening statements of 2 minutes each. And I think let's see, Brown, we're gonna start with Brown. I'm going alphabetically for the first round. So you're gonna have 2 minutes for an opening statement, and then we'll do 5 prepared questions as with the council candidates, different questions. Right.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having us here this evening. My name is Kristen Brown, and I am running to represent the 2nd District on the Board of Supervisors. I am a 4th-generation county resident with a family and personal legacy of public service. I am currently serving as the vice mayor in the city of Capitola. I'm in the 7th year of my 2nd term on Capitola City Council, but I have worked for the past 13 years in government, nonprofit, and community organizations, including time as a congressional aide for Congressman Sam Farr and Jimmy Panetta. And I currently serve as the vice chair of both the Metro Transit District and the Regional Transportation Commission. I was president of the Association of Monterey Bay Area Governments last year when we led the board through the Regional Housing Needs Assessment process. And I serve on the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary Advisory Committee. I have a bachelor's degree in political communication from CSUMB and a master's in public administration with an emphasis in public sector management and leadership. I'm proud of my accomplishments in my time as a council member. I've increased youth representation on our boards and commissions, encouraged salary studies that ensured fair wages for our employees, and successfully passed mobile home rent stabilization to prevent the displacement of 67 limited income residents. Thank you. I care very deeply for this community, and I believe that I have the experience and education necessary to step into the role of supervisor and be responsive to the needs of the residents on day one. I thank you again for the opportunity to be here today, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kim DeSerpa. I want to start out by apologizing. I came in yesterday from Europe. I had a death in my family, and also we had a planned vacation there. So I dealt with my family matters, and also had a celebration for my husband while we were there for his birthday. I have had no sleep. I literally I had maybe 4 hours last night, and I worked all day at the hospital. But I will tell you about myself, and good job, Kristen. She's got a beautiful pedigree, really. I am Kim DeSerpa. I'm a mom. I'm a social worker, clinical social worker. I've worked most of my career in healthcare. I grew up next door in the Salinas Valley, My father was killed when I was 3 years old. My mom raised us as a single mom. I was born in 1967, so I am 56 years old. I started my career in the Clinton administration at the Administration on Aging, where I did an internship in Washington, D.C. and got to see how policy was made at the highest levels. And that was very interesting and informed the rest of my career. I hold a bachelor's from Humboldt State, where I took a pledge of social and environmental responsibility at the time of my graduation, and a master's degree from Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri, the #1 school of social work in the nation. I've been a school board trustee for almost 14 years for Pajaro Valley Unified School District. And in that time, I championed and passed a $150 million school bond to improve facilities. I am the mother of 2 biological children, 4 stepchildren, and I've been a foster mom as well. I've worked most of my career in child welfare at the beginning, public health, and the rest of it has been in healthcare. I'm married to a wonderful physician who is a neonatologist for Stanford, but working here in our local hospitals. I know a lot about healthcare, mental health, substance abuse, and grief. I've also worked at Hospice of Santa Cruz County, and I'm very happy to stand before you tonight.
All right, thank you for those intros. We are going to start off with the first question. Again, you'll have 2 minutes, and I'm going to ask him to just sat down to come back up and respond to the question. Please identify the top 2 issues in the district you are running in and how you would address those issues if elected.
Sandy. So I think, like the rest of the county, the 2 top issues in my district, District 2, which includes a little bit of Capitola, all of Aptos, Corralitos, all the coastal areas, and part of Watsonville. The #1 issue for us is housing. Housing is just too flippin' expensive for anybody here in this county, and it's impacting our ability to hire and retain excellent workforce. Our first responders, our teachers, our just regular workers are having a really hard time staying here, and it's making, because I'm in the district, making it very hard to hire excellent staff. The second thing that's really hard in District 2 is transportation. I do support the rail trail and look forward to building an electric rail line on the tracks. Thank you. I think everybody here does. The backup, I commute south because I work in Salinas at the hospital there where I grew up, and the backup extends sometimes past San Andreas Road, definitely most days past Buena Vista. And in those cars are brown-skinned women, largely going to their jobs in healthcare or the university or wherever. And it's just a heartbreak. And I also commuted in that for a long time. And lost 2 hours of, every day I was working that I can never regain. My kids, that's one of my biggest regrets, actually. 30 seconds. Anyway, those are the 2 biggest issues, and I would pledge to you that to work on those with colleagues on the Board of Supervisors to alleviate the suffering of the people commuting, to support policy that's important to build housing at all levels. From super affordable all the way up to market rate. I think it's important to have homes for everybody here so that we can have a vibrant workforce. Thanks.
So it may come as a surprise to no one that I also find that housing and transportation are our 2 biggest issues in the district. In terms of housing, we need to build more affordable housing that our teachers, our healthcare workers, our firefighters, and our service industry employees can afford to live in, and that can afford to live in closer to where they work and where they play. Our county has grown by about 80,000 since the 1980s, but our housing stock has only grown by about 26,000. And so without this additional housing, we are facing a future where the next generation will not be able to afford to live in this beautiful place that we call home. I want to address issues related to zoning, barriers to development of affordable housing, and opportunities for different types of housing, such as ADUs and duplexes, to be incentivized. In the transportation side of things, in the big picture, we have issues of traffic congestion on Highway 1. That's no secret. And also in our neighborhood streets, as people are trying to get out of the traffic on Highway 1, it comes into our surface streets. We're spending the precious time that we have in our busy lives stuck in this traffic rather than spending it with our friends and our family and those that we love. I want to support continued investment in our Metro Transit District and planning for future passenger rail as solutions to these problems. As the vice chair of the RTC in September, I was one of those that voted in support of creating the project concept report for our passenger rail, and the EIR for segments 10 and 11 just came out this week, so check it out online. In addition to the big picture, we need to consider the impact that our transportation infrastructure has on people's daily lives. So the roads provide emergency access for residents in Corralitos and in the mountains, serve as shipping routes for our agricultural businesses, and funding for road repair is an ongoing issue in an underfunded county like Santa Cruz County. I would like to seek additional funding sources, potentially from state and federal government, in order to address these transportation issues. Thank you.
All right, Kristen, stay tuned because the next question asks you to elaborate on something you both have spoken about. What kind of housing do you believe is most needed in the district you're running? What kind of housing?
All right. I think clearly it's affordable housing, housing for the low and very low income households. And in Santa Cruz County, if you look at the DataShare website, our average household size is 2.6 people. We're going to round up to 3 because I don't know where that 0.6 of a person comes from. But in Santa Cruz County, a 3-person household with an annual income of $123,000 is considered low income. At 80,000, you're considered very low income. And I think we know that many of our service workers aren't even making that much. We need more housing that's affordable and attainable for these people. Workforce housing, student housing, smaller yet denser developments. This could mean ADUs, it could mean duplexes, smaller apartment buildings. Not all development needs to be multi-million-dollar homes or something of the sort. So that's kind of where I'm going with this, is we need more affordable housing. We need workforce housing. We need teacher housing. We need student housing. We need the kind of housing that allows the people who live here and work here to remain here. Thank you.
Do you mind reading it again? Yeah. Yeah, thanks. I think, like Kristen said, I mean, I echo everything she said. And, I really do believe that all types of housing are needed. I'm maybe the only person, well, I don't know about that exactly, but in the room that is in my work, in my everyday work, I have taken people from living in a car all the way to being housed and everything in between. And these are people with significant, difficult medical conditions or mental health conditions. I've helped them procure Section 8 voucher. I've done the house search for them. I've cleaned up their credit. I've gotten them benefits. I've gotten them IHSS workers. I've pulled them out of nursing homes and I've put them in housing. So I know how incredibly hard it is to find apartments for people with disabilities. So that's something that would be very, very important to me. And senior housing is incredibly important. Our county keeps approving these assisted living buildings where it costs $10,000 or more a month to live there. Who can afford that? What we need is more senior housing, supported housing, where people can live, hopefully for the remainder of their lives, intact with their dignity in an apartment. So we do need all kinds of housing. Do I have 30 seconds or is that it? Oh, I do. Oh, excellent. So what I was going to say is that we need all kinds of housing. Like I've got 6 kids that I would love to come back to this community so I could be a grandma. Right now, that will never happen. So we need smaller units so that people can start out by hopefully being able to buy a smaller unit. So we need everything from super affordable to market rate so that people can get the start that they need. My daughter's a paramedic, one of my daughters, and it's really important to me that our first responders can live in our community. It's very, very important. And our teachers. I'm championing now a school bond for Pajaro Valley that we're going to actually hopefully build multiple units of workforce housing on one of our campuses. And so I feel really proud of that effort. Thanks.
Question 3. Getting there. The next question is a very interesting one. Just asking you to please give us some idea of the people who live in your district and what their needs are. And Kim, that's going to you first.
So I'll talk about my school district first. It's not District 2 exactly, but it encompasses most of District 2. We have 50% of the students in this county. Of all students are in this county. So in our district, District 2, we have sort of a mix. We have, I think the median age is something like 53 point something. But we also have a mix of young families and seniors and retired people. I think that's the answer to the question, right? I don't need to keep talking. Probably Kristen can elaborate further, thanks.
So our District 2 has some of the most affluent residents in the county and some of the least. We have coastal residents living in multi-million-dollar homes and others who are living in mountainous areas on old logging roads that are literally asphalt put on top of dirt, roads that have failed and will fail every time that there's a major storm. We have the agricultural community. We have a population of students who live near and attend Cabrillo, and there's a diversity of needs amongst these residents. On the coast, there's of course concerns about flooding and coastal erosion and sea level rise, saltwater intrusion into our drinking water. In the mountains, the needs around evacuation and emergency vehicle access during fires or mudslides. Our students are going to be concerned about how to afford to pay off their student loans or find a job in the area that will pay their rent, or even if they will be able to stay here and buy a home one day. Our families will be concerned for their children and if they will be able to continue to build a life here. And I think that these are issues that the next supervisor is going to need to be able to consider and address the needs of all of these residents, all of these populations, while always considering those most in need first and foremost.
Thank you. Our next question should sound familiar. What accountability, if any, does an elected official have to a unionized workforce? And how will this be demonstrated should you be elected?
Sitting out there, it feels like the questions go a lot faster. And now that I'm up here, I'm like, wow, do we have more questions than they had? No, I don't think so. Elected officials have a profound accountability to a unionized workforce. We need to prioritize fair labor practices, workers' rights, and safe working conditions. This kind of accountability can be demonstrated through support of collective bargaining, advocating for fair wages, ensuring workplace protections. I am committed to engaging in open dialogue with unions and to understand their needs and concerns. Just as I've been as a city council member, where I've advocated for salary studies to ensure that our employees of the city were earning a fair wage. I successfully added pro-union language to our housing element to encourage developers to hire union workforce and contribute to apprenticeship programs. As the vice chair of the Metro Transit District, I supported our union workers in their fight to be included in the Public Employees Resources Board, PERB, which they now are. And if elected to supervisor, I'll continue to ensure that the voice of the workforce is at the table and heard and respected in the decision-making process. I knew I was going to knock them over eventually.
Thanks. In my nearly 14 years on the Pajaro Valley Unified School District, I have governed over a $330 million budget. In that time, I have been very I would say well-trained by the PVFT. We have a big activist union. They're so effective down in the Pajaro Valley Unified, and CSEA. They have really set the stage for me to understand how to how to interact and how to support our union brothers and sisters. One of the things I'm most proud about in my work in Pajaro Valley is the fact that we try to pay the highest wage possible always. We give almost 89% of our budget in total compensation for our staff and teachers. That's a lot. I mean, if you think about that, that's quite a lot. We have like about the best benefits, I think, in the whole state of California for our teachers, our retired teachers, and our classified staff. And I feel very proud of that. The benefits really haven't changed at all in the 14 years that I've been on the board. And that's because behind the scenes, I try to protect those benefits on behalf of people. I've also had the experience of organizing my own workforce unit at Dignity Health. The clinics were not represented, and I helped to do that. So I have had lots and lots of experience working with unions in my hospital. All of our nurses are unionized. And so I work with union leadership on essentially a weekly basis. So I support apprenticeship programs, project labor agreements, and everything else that comes with supporting our brothers and sisters in labor. So thank you.
Almost there. So our last prepared question is a 1-minute response. And I'll ask you to come on back up and answer. As a supervisor, what is your view on mitigating Highway 1 traffic congestion?
You know, in this run for supervisor, I don't know about other people who have run, but a lot of different groups have come to me and asked me to review their literature, et cetera. So I learned about, is it Vision Zero? Does anyone here know about Vision Zero? Yeah. So I'm learning things in this work that I wouldn't otherwise have known. I wish I had an answer for you. I mean, I think it's a multimodal process to fix the transportation issues. We have to somehow curtail our reliance on automobiles. We need an electric rail line. We need people on a trail riding their bikes and in their wheelchairs, you know, trying to get from point A to point B. I think it's not a one size fix. I think building transit lines or building housing along transit lines and including improving economic vitality in areas of our county so people don't have to travel on the one to get to work is important. Thank you. My time is up.
So I completely agree with Kim that this is a multimodal solution that we need to look at. We need to decrease single occupancy vehicle travel. It's not going to go away entirely ever. Some people will live and die in their cars, but we need to provide alternatives. And so investing in our transit district, Metro is now up to 70 hydrogen electric buses that we're going to have in the near future. It's the largest fleet in the entire country. And with the Reimagine Metro program that we're doing, we're going to have 15-minute headways in more places where people live, work, and play. We're going to work on those bus on shoulder auxiliary lanes, continue planning for passenger rail. As I mentioned, we got the project concept report. We're moving forward with that, and we continue to seek funding to complete the next steps and supporting active transportation infrastructure, buffered bike lanes, pedestrian overcrossings. These are the alternatives to single occupancy vehicle travel, and that's really what we need to do to help deal with the Highway 1 traffic issue.
We did get quite a few more questions than we have time for, so we've kind of selected to make sure that we hit at some of the key issues here. So I'm going to ask 2 questions, and you'll have a minute for each of these. I'll ask the first one. Do you support renegotiating the county's franchise agreement with PG&E as advocated by the Valley Women's Club? And Kristen, I'll ask you to.
Yeah, so I'll be honest, that's an issue that I don't know a lot about. But what I will say
is that we are very fortunate here on the Central Coast to be a part of 3CE, Central Coast Community Energy. It's a community power entity that sources clean energy, and it's the primary source of power here in Santa Cruz County. And so the PG&E issue is clearly one that I'm going to need to learn more about. But in the meantime, I would certainly suggest that we all check out 3CE because it's a really important source of energy, clean energy and renewable energy for our community. Sure.
So ditto, like I don't know much about this issue. I will tell you that I've lived in the rural Aptos Hills for the last 20 plus years, and we have our own special issues with PG&E out there. I have a problem with my well and out and unhook it and hook it back up. And I have a disabled daughter who lives at home who I can't get in and out of the house easily. And this was an emergency, essentially an emergency for my family. It took 10 days for PG&E to come out and do the work that they needed to do so that we could have the well repairs made that we needed to. So yes, I think in short, that sounds like a good idea, is to renegotiate whatever that is. I mean, I think that for a long time, did you say time's up? Oh, I'm sorry. For a long time, you raised something. Okay, for a very long time, I feel like our rural areas have been ignored. Well, ignored might be too strong of a word, but neglected by county services and by PG&E in general. So yes, I would approve or agree with.
Thank you. Thank you. The next question is also related to fire. Fire safety is a serious threat in Mid County. Would you support controlled burn in Nicene Marks and Porter Cesnon State Parks?
That little alley, which is so much like the alleys of Lowell, and I hear far off the sense of coming night that
That doesn't sound like a good idea to me. I live less than probably a mile away from Nicene Marks, and
Oh, you see about SP Alley. Blowing by open.
many miles, and that would put many homes and people in danger.
I would just like to say for the record that I love goats as a source of management for vegetation. Yeah, we use them at the RTC. I understand the importance of controlled burns for further damage prevention. That being said, I'm not sure that we at the county have the authority to determine those kind of controlled burns in a state park. So, I mean, certainly I think there could be discussions with the state if they were choosing to do something like that about their reasoning and the safety of those around and what kind of notice the community would be given. But generally for a state land, the County Board of Supervisors would not have the authority to authorize or prevent something like that, to my knowledge.
Hey, I want to thank our candidates here and ask you to come up for one last time to give us a 1-minute closing statement. And we started with Kristen, so I'll ask you, Kim, to come on up for your closing statement. 1 minute.
Well, thanks for having us tonight. I need my glasses. A woman has not been elected to the County Board of Supervisors in 16 years. We are very, very fortunate to have two very well-prepared women in front of you who have stepped forward. I want to thank you, Kristen, for your leadership and your courage in stepping forward. And I want to thank all the candidates that are here tonight. This getting in front of you and answering questions is not easy. I'm somebody with a demonstrated record of getting things done. I'm part of the Get Shit Done Club, actually. And when my kids started at Valencia, there was no money in the budget, and I put in a track. I put in the very first playground for kids with disabilities in the entire region and wrote every grant myself and project managed the whole thing. I put an art program in place with murals and lots of other art, performing and visual. And I created a music program. That's what I did just at an elementary school. And I've taken that and improved our district so that kids are achieving now 50% higher than they ever have been. And multiple projects got done, including the bond. So I feel very proud of my record, and I think I would make a great supervisor. So thank you for hearing me tonight.
If the Get Shit Done Club has shirts, I would like one because that sounds amazing. Thank you for the opportunity to join you today. I hope that you have learned more about me and what I stand for as a community member, as an elected official, as a candidate, and as a person. And that I have inspired the belief that I am prepared to step into this role as county supervisor and be prepared to do the job on day one. I encourage each of you to reach out if you would like any further discussion about anything I've shared today, if you have any questions or would like any follow-up, or if you would just like to share your vision for what a bright future in Santa Cruz County would look like. Thank you.
All right, we're hanging in there. Thank you to District 2 candidates. Next up, we have, well, we have Sean Doherty. We have U.S. Congressional District 19 candidate, Sean Doherty. Your opening statement will be 2 minutes, and then we've got 5 questions for you as well. There may be questions from the audience at the end. Was it said that the other candidate in this race was invited and did not respond? So we just have Sean to inspire us tonight.
I think I actually saw Jeffrey and are we okay? Can you hear me? Can you all hear me? I think I actually witnessed Jeffrey inviting Jimmy Panetta to this event at the labor picnic. Yeah, I actually did witness that. I didn't mean to make that awkward for you, Jeffrey. I was just saying hello. So my name is Sean Doherty. Yes, I'm running against Jimmy Panetta in District 19. I am running on a platform centered on peace, justice, and climate action. Mostly peace and climate action. My political activism began with the Iraq War and Occupy, but it was really Bernie where I became active in electoralism, and specifically Santa Cruz for Bernie. So some of you all may know that I made the SC4B.org website. I've been helping Jeffrey with like all the mundane details of making SC4B run. And then ultimately I went on to provide pro bono campaign services for the likes of, I don't know, Brown, Kumar, the brand new DCC effort. So that was my induction into electioneering, was SC4B. The reason I'm running is that I and a few other people in this organization tried to get a meeting with Jimmy Panetta to talk to him about diplomacy in Ukraine. And we couldn't even get 5 minutes with him. And that's why I'm running. So look, the reason I think it's important for someone for me to run is that I think politics is like going to a car dealership. I think you don't go to a car dealership and say to the salesperson, okay, I'm here on the lot. I'm going to buy a car from you today. Doesn't matter what price you name. Okay, now let's negotiate. I think you have to be able to say to the car dealer, I can walk down the road. Okay, well, I'm the car dealer down the road. All right.
Go back and forth here. Your first question is not a city council candidate question. Your first question is, under what circumstances can peace come to Ukraine and Russia?
Okay, give me a hard question. Okay, so yeah, Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So look, this is obviously not an easy question to answer, and I can't answer it, but I have some thoughts on it. I think that first of all, the U.S. has to be willing to engage in diplomacy. And while I know that the progressive community has been split on the Ukraine war, I think that the Quincy Institute survey data shows that overwhelmingly progressive support diplomacy in Ukraine as a solution. So that's, first of all, the US has to go to the negotiating table, and they have not been willing. Even before Russia invaded Ukraine, there was an opportunity to engage in diplomacy, and Russia offered a treaty. And maybe we don't agree with the treaty, but we didn't even try. We didn't even try. And now 500,000 people are dead, okay? And a couple months into that war, there was a peace treaty, a provisional peace treaty that Russia and Ukraine had signed. And then the UK scuttled it. Presumably the US was behind that. And so the thing is, like, we have to go to the negotiating table. And I think that ultimately it's going to come down to NATO boundaries. When the USSR collapsed, we promised Gorbachev that we weren't going to expand NATO, but we did expand it. And then it was Bush Cheney who offered the NATO invitation to Ukraine. This war that we're fighting right now, that's killed 500,000 people, Bush Cheney started this war, okay? And we need to acknowledge that. So we've got to talk. We've got to talk. War won't solve this, and it's that simple.
Thank you, Sean. We're gonna give you another opportunity to hold forth on this question. Is there, in your view, a preliminary diplomatic solution to the war in Ukraine?
Hi again. So, yeah, okay. So we need a ceasefire. Like, first and foremost, ceasefire. What's happening right now in Ukraine, like, is that the median age of the people in the trenches in Ukraine is above 40, like my age. It's old men, because all the young men have been killed or they ran away. And now recently, in the past month, their parliament approved or provisionally approved men above the age of 60 entering their military. Okay, that's how desperate they are. Yeah, so look, we need negotiations now. And unfortunately, Russia, which had been open to negotiations previously, now their posture is changing, because like this counteroffensive launched in June has failed. And now Ukraine is weaker than ever. So Russia won't accept a frozen conflict. They're afraid that we're just going to buy time and build up a military. So we have to show to them that this is a good faith effort. We have to show them that we mean it when we say that we want a peaceful resolution to this conflict. It's not in the interest of any of the people in this room to keep fighting Russia. It's really not. It's just draining our resources. Wow. Okay. Well, let me just say, I'm just going to go a little off topic, and let me just say, the amount of money that we've spent on this war in 1 year could have given everybody housing who doesn't currently have a home, and on top of that, could have given everybody tuition-free college. Like, that is what we lose with these wars.
Decide whether I should clap and then. Thank you. So we're gonna shift gears here and ask about your strategy for dealing with gridlock in the House chamber, should you be unlucky enough to be thrown into it.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of fun being asked questions like this. Okay, look, I don't think the problem in the House is gridlock. Look, I'm not a kumbaya peacenik. I might sound like one because I keep calling for diplomacy, but I think the problem is asymmetric warfare. I think these people like Manchin and Gates, you know, they'll shoot the hostage. They will. And so the good people like us who want healthcare for everyone and education for someone, like we get told, oh, someone's going to get hurt, and then we compromise and we give everything away. So I actually think the problem is that we need to be standing up because we're on the right side of the issues. We want Medicare for all. 80% of Democrats want Medicare for all. A majority of Americans want Medicare for all. Do you really think that there would be a huge political cost if we were to stand up for that and that we were to hold up some horrible omnibus bill that was funding war in 3 countries across the globe? No. No, we should be standing up for what we believe in. Do you really think it would have cost us politically if we had stood up for increasing the minimum wage from $7.25 an hour to $15 an hour because we didn't believe in the importance of respecting the parliamentarian? No, it wouldn't have cost us. It wouldn't have. That was complete BS. We should be standing up for these things. All right. Hey, y'all. All right. No, so look, my point is we're on the right side of popular issues and we should be standing up for them, and we shouldn't cave to this narrative that look, the narrative of no, the American people want what we want and we should be fighting for it, and it's not going to cost us politically to stand up for it. End of story.
Keep that energy up, because in 2015, Bernie Sanders said our biggest security threat was climate change. What are the most important actions the US should be taking for the environment?
Yeah, well, look, I agree with Bernie. And, you know, part of why I'm running right now is I have a toddler. I mean, it's pretty crazy to run for Congress when you have a toddler. Like, I have negative spare hours every day, but I think it's having a toddler. You care a little bit more about the future, so that's why I'm running. So look, bare minimum, no new fossil fuel projects, okay? Public transportation, high-speed rail. But I think the fundamental problem here is that, look, a lot of people know that we can't do new fossil fuel projects, but our representatives are bought. The incumbent I'm running against is bought. I show on my website on citing fbc.gov, he's taking donations from the fossil fuel industry, and that's why he votes for new fossil fuel projects. So I think that's actually the most important thing we can do. We could ban donations from the fossil fuel industry to our elected representatives. Now, I'm taking a pledge that I won't take donations, and I'm actually asking you all here today to sign a petition back there to say to Panetta, give back that money that he's taken from the fossil fuel industry. Yeah, it's right there on the table. Oh, well, that's true. There's Wall Street and there's private health insurance. Yeah. All right.
So on that note, who are you seeking campaign contributions from, and who would you refuse contributions from, perhaps others besides fossil fuel?
Well, I'm looking for donations from people like you all. So I'm not taking any corporate donations. I'm not taking any donations from individuals above $500, okay, which is the legal limit is like $3,500. Okay, I want a really clean bill of health. When people go to fec.gov, I want them to go to my campaign and see it's just small donors. So, I mean, it's that simple. It's that simple. No corporate donations, and no big donations from wealthy individuals. That's it.
It's now time for your closing statements. We didn't get questions in the chat or from the room, so give us everything else you want to say.
Well, I kind of feel like I've said everything I had to say, but yeah, well, thank you very much. I mean, look, go to my website, seanforpeace.org. This is a grassroots campaign. Look, even if you think this is a long shot campaign, which look, it is, as I said, Jimmy Panetta needs to understand there's a car dealership down the road and you'll walk. He's not going to give you what you want if you're just being his friend. It's that simple, okay? He's got to believe that he won't get your vote unless he does what you want. So you go talk to him. If you're upset with him about Ukraine or Gaza or the Mountain Valley Pipeline or whatever it is, you go tell him, I'm going to go vote for Sean Doherty because you're worthless.
All right. Thank you. We are going to now shift gears. We have 3 statements from U.S. Senate candidates, representatives for, or a statement from Gail Au, and a statement from, sorry, nobody gave me the names of the folks who are coming up, but we'll have someone for Katie Porter, Adam Schiff, and Barbara Lee. And we're going to do just a 5-minute statement. You've got 5 minutes. We won't have questions. And we are doing great on time. Thank you all for hanging in there. Let's see. I guess we'll call up. I've been going in alphabetical order. So, and I don't remember the names of the folks who are speaking for the other 2 candidates. So I'm going to ask Barbara Lee's representative, Justin Cummings.
There's no sound.
In this country, read. And as a former mental health professional, she has a solution: eradicate poverty, exterminate corporate welfare, and end austerity for working families. So just to remind us all of some of the things that Barbara Lee has done, she wrote California's first Violence Against Women's Act. She was one of the few who fought to defeat California's disastrous 3 strikes law. She cast a lone vote against invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan. She wrote legislation to repeal Hyde Amendment that blocks access to abortion and worked to protect the availability of contraception and medical abortion. She expanded SNAP and enhanced child tax credit. She fought for renters tooth and nail with the Housing for All Act of 2022 and Renters Bill of Rights. She authored the National Affordable Housing Trust Fund Act in partnership with Bernie Sanders, legislation that has helped families across the country find affordable housing. She was original co-sponsor of Medicare for All. She co-chaired the Congressional Cannabis Caucus, authored the first racial justice cannabis reform bill, the Marijuana Justice Act. She's leading the national effort to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. She introduced tax excessive CEO Pay Act to force companies to share their profits with their workers. She passed legislation, PEPFAR, during the Bush administration that has saved 25 million lives from AIDS. She's regularly ranked as the most liberal member of Congress, highest ranking Black woman appointed to the Democratic leadership. leads more than 100 members of Congress in crafting and advancing legislation to lift millions of American families out of poverty and into the middle class. She partnered with Representatives Summers Lee, Jamal Bowman, and Rashida Tlaib to introduce the Oppose Limitless Inequality Growth and Reverse Community Harms Act, tax extreme wealth, reduce inequality, and combat the threat to democracy posed by an aristocracy. And along with Representative Paul Girabella and Senators Tammy Duckworth and Cory Booker, she reintroduced the newly named Donald McKeegan Environmental Justice for All Act, the most comprehensive environmental justice legislation in history. And so I could continue to go on, but I think I've made the point of how progressive Barbara Lee is. And she is the only person with the courage, the vision, and the record to eradicate poverty, face down the fossil fuel industry, defend our democracy, and tirelessly advance the progressive agenda. It's one thing to say that income and wealth inequality are the major political issue of our time. It's quite another to have been on the wrong end of a rigged economy that penalizes the poor, people of color, and the working class. And we know that Barbara Lee is going to fight for those people who have historically been marginalized when she makes it to the US Senate. And so I think we ask ourselves, what can we do to help future generations? What can we do to help end poverty, uplift people all around us throughout our entire nation? Would be to endorse and elect Barbara Lee to the US Senate. Thank you.
All right. I'm sorted out now, and I'm going to invite Glenn Glazer up to speak on behalf of Katie Porter's campaign.
Is this good? Can you hear me? Okay, so someone mentioned the Get Shit Done Club, right? Here are things she's done. She is the first ever non-Republican to turn her seat in the 46th district. Okay, it has been held by Republicans since its inception in Orange County. Okay, held it and done with it, right? So she was reelected. She forced the CEO of Wells Fargo to resign in disgrace when she caught him. Right, telling Congress one thing, of course another. She forced the CDC, right, to give out free COVID tests. If you got a free COVID test, because Katie Porter, she forced Wall Street Bank to repay billions of dollars to California that they had ripped off. So when she goes to fight for people, honest working people and honest working voters. Not? Got it. So that that returned $2.4 million out of Wall Street banks to California Congress, right? And she's incorruptible. So she likes to ask questions during congressional hearings. Name the only candidate in the Senate race who has never taken PAC or lobbyist money. Katie Porter. Name the only candidate who actually posts every person they meet with on their congressional website. Every person that Katie Porter meets with is on her website, so you know who she's talking to. There are no back doors, no backdoor meetings with Katie Porter. So do people know what earmarks are, right? The congressional earmarks? She was the only Democrat to oppose them. She was the only one who stood up for people and said, no, those little pet projects, they're not good for people, right? Who who introduced the bill to ban Congress and their families from benefiting from stock trading, right? There's so much insider dealing. People who go into Congress come out richer, vastly richer than when they went in. And it's not the congressional salary, it's the insider information that allows them to make stock trading. And that stock trading is corruption, right? So Katie is the one who stopped that, or wants to stop that. She's a real person. She's not a career politician. She's a single mom of 3 kids. She also is a survivor of domestic abuse. A little quick story there. When we first run at the House of Congress, for congressional House seat, it was in the middle of her divorce. Her husband had threatened her and her children and executed violence against them. And she asked the court for a restraining order, and to be a jerk, her now ex-husband filed a restraining order against her. And her opponent, Dave Min, who was running against her for counsel, said, well, I don't know if we can trust a woman who's had a restraining order filed against her. And this is the kind of bullshit women put up with constantly, right? This is a woman who has survived and surpassed that kind of nonsense and been strong in the face of it. Oh, and by the way, Congress is not really designed for single moms. Being a transcontinental, taking care of kids on this side and then flying over across the country, Congress doesn't operate like that. They operate on, oh, well, we expect you to be here whenever, right? And if you're a single guy, you can hang out and it's much easier. Or if you have domestics who can take care of the kids or whatever, which Katie doesn't do, right? And then the last thing is, of course, is that she has a large number of endorsements, but I want to specifically call out to this group the endorsements of IBEW, of the National United Health Workers, and what was it? AFT, right, and AFT. So, you're looking at a candidate who also supports labor and has labor supports. I was in favor of Katie when she came out. Katie came out first, right, in the run. And I was down with her when that happened. And I have no regrets, right? She is fire, right? She will bring fire to the Senate. She has made it so that people are once again afraid to go to congressional hearings, which they should be, right? It used to be that these big business types would come up in front of Congress and they'd walk in their suits and their lawyers and they'd go blah, 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 and they'd walk out again. Now they don't. When they see Katie is in charge of the hearing, they are legitimately afraid because of things that have happened to people like the CEO of Wells Fargo and to Jamie Dimon at Chase and so on. So I think that Katie Porter is the voice we need to be the fire to represent the people.
All right. Thank you for the impassioned speech. So our last speaker will be Jeffrey Smedberg, reading a statement from Gail Au, longtime community member, you may know, on behalf of Adam Schiff's campaign.
Thank you. Yes. Just so you know, I did reach out to all the Senate campaigns and got initially some positive response from all of them. But Katie Porter's and Barbara Lee's campaigns actually came through, and we worked out somebody to be a speaker. And Gail Au at the last moment said she'd love to, but she can't make it tonight. So she gave me this statement to read. My name is Gail McKellis Au, and I have lived in Santa Cruz since 1970. Prior to that, I grew up in Glendale, and being a Democrat in Glendale was like being a Republican in Santa Cruz today. You never got to vote for a representative from your own political party who had a chance to win. In the year 2000, I was long gone from Glendale, but my mom, Jane, still lived there. Adam Schiff ran for Congress, and my mother, who was not very politically active, helped his campaign. She walked precincts and made phone calls and donated money, and she got to vote for the first Democratic representative from Glendale and Burbank, who won. I was so happy for her. Fast forward 23 years, and Adam Schiff is now running for Senate from California. After a stellar career in the House, I think a lot of us watched him as chair of the Judiciary Committee lead the impeachment hearings against Donald Trump, and we couldn't help but see his intelligence and his sense of integrity. On August 22nd, 2023, I hosted a reception for Adam Schiff in my backyard. After meeting him and talking with him, I am even more dedicated as a supporter of his. He is so smart and so compassionate and so concerned about the well-being of all of us in California. He has many, many great ideas about how to deal with statewide problems like homelessness, poverty, climate change, immigration, preserving reproductive rights, standing up for the LGBTQIA+ community, better health care for all, and every other issue we face today in the state of California. I know we need more women and people of color in the United States Senate, but I will be voting for Adam Schiff because his intelligence and his integrity set him apart. Adam has the support of Nancy Pelosi and a huge majority of the California House caucus, and they usually don't even endorse a candidate. But all of them have worked with Adam Schiff, and they know he will get so much done for us in California. They also know he is the most competent and capable candidate in the race. Please join me in supporting Adam Schiff for United States Senate. Thank you.
All right. We are now at the moment of caucus. So Santa Cruz for Bernie members will be able to stay. We're going to caucus talk about the candidates and endorsements, contributions, etc. And we're going to ask candidates whether you are a Santa Cruz for Bernie member or not to step out for those deliberations. And we will, the endorsements that we make tonight will be posted. Jeffrey, it says this evening, is that okay? Jeffrey's a night owl. Thanks everybody for your being here tonight and showing up for local politics and state politics all the way to Congress.